Coming back to Berlin was strange, to say the least. I'd been here 9 years ago, in 1936, for the Summer Olympics. Things had changed considerably. Back then, somehow National Socialist officials got wind that I had been involved in the Boy Scouts of America, which was true, and assumed that I was some sort of unofficial representative. That was malarkey. Arriving in Hamburg on the ocean liner SS Manhattan, a welcoming party picked me up. There was a kind of red carpet this time around too, but it wasn't for me. Back in '36, I'd met an attractive woman named Petra and spent quite a lot of time with her, going to many of the Olympic events together. I did drive past the building she lived in, but there was considerable bomb damage, and nobody seemed to be living there now. I do hope she survived the war, and almost half expect to randomly run into her. Sergeant told us not to fraternize with the enemy. But what would I do? Pretend not to recognize her? Come to think of it, she just might have been part of the red carpet treatment. After a 20-minute drive, we arrived to the Olympiastadion, and I'm left speechless. It seems to me a dead body, completely void of the life essence that had been present before. My first visit had been the opening ceremony for the Games, and there were over 100,000 spectators present. The heat was stifling, and sitting in the stands of the Olympiastadion, a massive mountain of grey stone, made me feel very small. Suddenly the shadow of the Hindenburg passed over us. It felt like an eclipse. That was about a year before the Hindenburg disaster happened, when the Zeppelin was still considered the height of engineering advancement. Then he appeared. I'd seen pictures of Hitler, but the reality was different. It wasn't just him, it was the sound. 100,000 voices screaming Sieg Heil in a rhythmic wave. It wasn't a cheer, it was a physical force. It vibrated in your teeth. Petra, of course, was also saluting and urged me to do the same, but I refused. It just didn't feel right, so I sat there, gripped by this cold realization. This wasn't just a track meet, this was a rehearsal for something much bigger. After the Games, they added commemorative stone plaques listing the athletes that won gold medals and proclaiming Hitler as the host of the event. It seemed somehow ironic, built to withstand 1,000 years, but now, so soon, completely abandoned. Will future generations look at it as they would an Egyptian pyramid, wondering what was going on in the minds of its creator? Here, the Olympia flame was brought. They actually organized a torch relay from Olympia, Greece, to Berlin, involving over 3,000 runners, and carrying a torch 3,422 kilometers, where it was used to light a massive cauldron in the stadium to kick off the Games, a symbolic event masterminded by Karl Diem for propaganda purposes, with Siegfried Eichler lighting the urns as the relay culminated in the stadium. The urns were kept lit throughout the Games and then extinguished at their completion. The Olympics were not held in 1940 or 1944 because of the war. I remember asking Petra why they didn't just use a Zippo to light it. She said that I was a typical American, practical but completely unromantic. Another opening ceremony spectacle that I was able to experience was when 25,000 doves were released as a symbol of peace. It was quite impressive up until a ceremonial cannon was fired, which startled the birds, causing them to crap all over the spectators and athletes. Fortunately, Petra and I were missed by the bombardment. This Olympiastadion was meant to be a cathedral of power, but now it's filled with ghosts. Is Petra one of them? Is she standing here beside me again, in the stands? Now, it's nothing more than a playground for GIs with cameras, and a graveyard for an ideology, for an entire nation. This is about where we were sitting when we watched the dive competitions. This was Petra's favorite event. She declared that male divers and swimmers are powerful sexually and produce strong, healthy babies, which surprised and embarrassed me. My reaction she found hilarious and teased me about it for days. But the event that I was waiting for was the men's 100-meter final. When Jesse Owens coiled into those blocks, the stadium went deathly quiet. And then, he was gone. A blur of dark skin against a cinder track. He didn't just win, he made the others look like they were standing still. I whooped and hollered and was watching carefully to see how Petra and those around us would react, and they were jubilant, especially Petra, which kind of confused me. I mean, Jessie was not exactly Aryan. My first thought was that since she was with me, an American, she was being polite and taking part in my celebration. But like I said, those around us were cheering too, and it all seemed sincere, baffling. I have to admit that the Americans back home are certainly willing to cheer for Jessie's successes, but many wouldn't use the same bathroom or drink from the same water fountain. At the closing ceremony for the 1936 Olympics, which took place on August 16th, I was again with Petra. In the evening, an intricately planned spotlight presentation was given, which included 152 anti-aircraft searchlights positioned around the periphery of the Olympiastadion, aimed vertically into the night sky. The converging beams of light that were moved manually created a majestic, ethereal effect, forming walls and a ceiling of light that enclosed the stadium and extended for miles into the air. It was the most awe-inspiring thing I'd ever seen. And I have to admit, although I'm not an Olympic swimmer, that night I had the endurance of one. A few nights later, now alone, I got lost walking back from a beer hall. I turned down a side street in a neighborhood that wasn't on the tourist map. The Olympische Freude, or Olympic Joy, didn't reach here. I saw a man painting a wall. He saw me and froze. I realized he wasn't painting. He was trying to wash something off. I caught a glimpse of a word, Jude. He looked at my American lapel pin, then back at the wall. He didn't say a word, just shook his head and gestured for me to keep walking. With the information overload, I couldn't sleep that night, and to be honest, I didn't care to see Petra again before leaving. When I boarded the ship to go home, I felt a strange sense of relief. I had my souvenirs, a program, a small lead replica of the stadium, and a handkerchief from Petra that she'd put perfume on, but I also had a heavy feeling in my gut. I'd thought that I'd seen a great sporting event, and I had. I saw Jesse Owens conquer the world. But as the lights of Europe faded into the fog, I couldn't help but feel that we were leaving a house on fire, and the residents were all pretending that they couldn't smell the smoke. 3 years later, they invaded Poland. I wasn't surprised. I'd heard the roar in that stadium, and I knew what was coming. If you like productions like this created from primary historical sources, please take the time to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Patreon supporters get regular access to exclusive footage that can't be shown here. Open a free account on our website military1945.com and stay informed. Thanks for watching.